America's best days are yet to come. That's because conservatives like you know and live the values our great country was built on. The Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard in the D.C. swamp each day, shining the light on a bright future. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. I think this is going to be a very big news-breaking program. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I've heard about something I cannot repeat it right now until I have an official source for it. You might say, well, then why are you bringing this up? Because I just want you to know I'm working on it. I think what's going on in Iran is a much bigger deal than the media are reporting. Have you seen much coverage of this on television, Mr. Producer? You don't see much, do you? It's an amazing thing to me. Amazing thing to me. You don't see much coverage of this at all. If I weren't talking about it, who's talking about it even? So I'm going to keep that in my back pocket until I have confirmation of the kind that I need. I don't always have to be first, but I always try to be right. But we also have some other breaking news fresh from the New York Post. Now, there's been an effort to portray Renee Nicole Good, the young lady, the mother, who was shot and killed in Minneapolis, as a non-activist. I've been very careful about how I handle this story. I'm always trying to be careful about how I handle stories like this. And I made the case and the point to you yesterday, as well as online briefly, that the Democrats are responsible for a lot of this. And so are the media, because they have people all worked up. They use the most violent, inducing rhetoric imaginable. They're even doing it today. They are ginning up their base and ginning up other people to take action. ICE is federal law enforcement. They carry weapons. They have the right to use the weapons. They're not there as the Peace Corps. They are there to get and remove illegal aliens, many of whom are extraordinarily dangerous, or under these circumstances can become dangerous. When you have people who are obstructing them, physically obstructing them, throwing bricks at them, throwing frozen bottles of water, Antifa-style techniques. And they are funded, these NGOs and these other organizations, by billionaires as well as foreign countries. These men and women of ICE are under functioning under terrible conditions. I've never seen anything like this before, but the Democrat Party's behind it. The media are behind it. Certain billionaires are behind it. Certain foreign countries are behind it. You've got a lot of protesters who are paid, but you have a lot of people out there who've been worked up into a tizzy. And so, as I said to you last evening, the Democrat Party does have blood on its hands. The Democrat Party does hate America. They let these people in, and now they won't allow them to be removed. And they don't care who they are. And I also fear, and I'm just being honest with you, that's why we may lose a couple of justices on the birthright citizenship front. Because they don't want to deal with this. They don't want to deal with this. Intimidation can, in fact, work. I'm not saying we will. I'm saying we might. I'm worried about it. Now, we've learned more now about Renee Nicole Good, and that's why I keep my powder dry. Let's see how these things develop. I've watched the videos from many angles. Who is she? This is from the Post, New York Post. Renee Nicole Good, the mom who was killed by a federal agent after veering the car toward him, was an anti-ICE warrior, quote unquote, and was part of a group of activists who worked to, quote, document and resist, unquote, the federal immigration crackdown in Minnesota, the New York Post can reveal. Now, this is completely opposite of what basically everybody else has said. The Democrats and the media. Good, who moved to the city last year, linked up with the anti-ICE activists through her 6-year-old son's woke charter school, which boasts that it puts social justice first, quote unquote, and, quote, involving kids in political and social activism, unquote, multiple local sources said. First of all, what a sick school that is. Turning out little Marxists and Islamists. It's a sick. Third world is here, ladies and gentlemen, in a big way. The article goes on, quote, she was a warrior. She died doing what was right, unquote. A mother named Lisa, whose child attends the same school, told the Post at a growing vigil where Good was killed Wednesday. Good and her wife, Rebecca, 40, who were raising the child together and sent the boy to Southside Family Charter School, a K-5 academy opened in 1972, which has from its inception been, quote, unabashedly dedicated to social justice, education, unquote, according to co-founder Susie Oppenheim. It was through her involvement in the school community that Good became involved in ICE Watch. That's a group. A loose coalition of activists dedicated to disrupting ICE raids in the sanctuary city. Similar coalitions have cropped up all over the country, with activists using phone apps, whistles, and car horns to warn neighborhoods when ICE shows up. ICE Watch activists can also turn confrontational, with numerous instances of activists ramming agents with their cars in the past. There's a massive increase in this activity going on, and now you know why. It's organized and it's funded. Renee Good was trained against these ICE agents, what to do, what not to do. It's a very thorough training, Lisa said. Again, this Lisa is a mother that sends her kid to the same school and is part of this whole social justice BS. To listen to commands, to know your rights, to whistle when you see an ICE agent, she said. I know she was doing the right thing. I watched the video plenty of times, but I also know in my heart the woman she was doing everything right. These are quotes from this breaking New York Post story. Good, a 37-year-old mother of 3, was shot in the head and killed as she sped her SUV in the direction of 2 immigration officers who were conducting an enforcement operation just south of the city's central business district. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said the shooting, which remains under investigation, was an act of self-defense and so forth. County worker Kristen Peter, 30, who's also at the vigil, said Renee was on the same ICE Watch team as one of her co-workers and that she herself was attending a meeting of the group Thursday night. So we have these ICE Watch teams, which are militia, basically, that are told to block the ICE agents, warn the population of what's going on, and so forth and so on. Somebody's funding them. Somebody's organizing them. Somebody's indoctrinating them. The Democrat Party's in on this whole thing. They were on the same team. They would eat meals together, she said, as she waved a little bundle of sage at the memorial site. School friend Lisa said a lot of families associated with the school live in the area where Good was killed. According to the Southside Family Charter School's website, it provides, quote, an academically challenging, socially conscious education to diverse learners, and declares it's proud to offer what it calls a social justice curriculum. You know, this is child abuse. This is horrendous. A photo from its Facebook page shows a dry erase board of students' hopes and dreams for the future, which includes, quote, Donald Trump's heart grows 3 times as big, unquote. The Goods had no love lost for President Trump themselves, leaving their Kansas City, Missouri neighborhood to Canada after the 2024 election with plans to leave the country for good. They lived in the Great White North for a few months before settling in Minneapolis. Rebecca, who was confronting ICE agents outside the SUV at the time of the shooting, was filmed sobbing, quote, it's my fault, unquote, after the shots rang out and she realized Renee had been struck. Quote, I made her come down here. It's my fault, she said, her face covered in blood after rushing to her partner's aid. They shot her in the head. I have a 6-year-old in school, she said. Now, this is horrendous, obviously. Absolutely horrendous, and we all have hearts about things like this, but here's the deal. These women put their kid in this school, are indoctrinating this kid, so they're really ideologically, very committed and radicalized by this. These events are taking place. They rushed to the front line of the activity, and this Renee, when you're dealing with police and they're armed in very hostile situations, and you don't follow orders, it's not a reason to be shot. But if you hit that gas pedal with a policeman's arm in the car trying to turn the car off, and another policeman in front of the car who has to move to the left of the car, you're going to create a problem, aren't you? You're going to create a life and death situation. And these men and women in ICE, they have been through it and through it and through it again. I fear for New York. You've got Mondami there. I fear for Chicago. You got Johnson there. Minneapolis, you got this real head case Fry, who was there all during the George Floyd riots and so forth and so on. These Democrat cities with these Democrat mayors, Democrat city councils, Democrat judges, many of them in blue states with these Democrat governors and Democrat attorneys general. They have all been radicalized. They're fighting for power through immigration. They're fighting for power through the obstruction of ICE and other law enforcement. They want to control this country. They want to control you and me. They want to impose their will, and that's what this is all about for them. And then when something horrible like this happens, they try to turn it on the system. They try to turn it on law enforcement. They try and turn it on Donald Trump or other Republicans who are trying to do something about what's taking place in our country, which is destroying our country. And the enemy is here. The enemy is here. The Department of Education has done us a great favor. Nobody has done more to expose the amount of foreign money going into our schools, our colleges, than I. Nobody. Taking what information is put out by very respectable research organizations and so forth and putting it out over and over and over again. Qatar is a terror state. I don't give a damn what anybody else says. Qatar is a terror state. And they bought podcasters, and they bought politicians, and they bought lawyers, and they bought lobbyists. 330,000 citizens in that country, about a million indentured servants in that country that they treat like slaves, like dirt. That they pretend to the West that they're very democratic and they want to help. Fund and support Hamas while negotiating. What is this? JNS, Qatar is the biggest foreign funder of U.S. colleges per the Department of Education. If you listen to this program, I've told you this over and over, or watch my show on Fox. Qatar has been the largest source of foreign funding for the United States and higher education institutions, according to data displayed in a new U.S. Department of Education paper, or portal. The portal, which went live on January 2, explains that under Section 117 of the federal law, federally funded universities are required to disclose twice annually any gifts and contracts from a foreign source that are worth at least $250,000 in a calendar year. Tim Walberg, chair of the House Education and Workforce Committee, told JNS, the Jewish News Service, that our college campuses are being flooded with foreign cash, but every single dollar given by our adversaries comes with strings attached. America's adversaries exploit these financial ties to steal research, spread divisive propaganda, push indoctrination, and undermine free speech. Here again, like I wrote in On Power, like I wrote in The Democrat Party Hates America, like I wrote in American Marxism, my last 3 books, the fusion of the Marxists and the Islamists. And they are destroying our country. They're in our educational system, colleges, universities, K through 12. They're the radical left teachers' unions. They want to come between you as parents and your children. Unbelievable. Everything I've said is happening. Everything I've written about is taking place. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. I need to get something out of the way because there's a ton to cover tonight, and I'm thrilled that you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, there are people in our lives who disappoint us, right? Some of you have family members and friends and even acquaintances and so forth. But you got to get over it. You got to get through it, and you have to recognize who they are, right? Tucker Carlson is one of the most loathsome individuals to ever have a microphone and a camera in front of his mouth and face. He's diabolical. He treats his audience like crap. He manipulates his audience. He tries to bring in as many foreign eyes as he possibly can, as grifters do. He's tied in tight with individuals who are also tied with foreign countries. I don't know if he's getting money directly or not. I don't much care. I don't know if he's built that home in Qatar or not. But he's undermining support for our country, support for our faiths, and he's doing it every day, pretending that he's MAGA, America first. He clearly is not. Megyn Kelly is a grotesque grifter. She couldn't hold a job. She couldn't make it on cable and network TV. She's now found her niche. She's got a foul mouth like a drunken sailor or a drunken Marxist. Yesterday, in her interview with Tucker Carlson, or maybe it was this morning, her dripping hatred for Judaism and the blood libels were as sick as it gets. You need to abandon these people. You need to demonstrate to them you won't tolerate it anymore. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Take the survey on America's future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Mark Levin, the research arm of conservative media. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
I'm not going to elaborate at this time over what I said before the break, but I'm telling you now that these people are your enemies. If you're a person of deep Christian faith who believes in the Holy Land, if you're Jewish, if you're a red-blooded American who supports this president, if you're concerned about the rise of Islamism and Marxism in this country, these people are not your friend. Ben Kelly was praising Nick Fuentes today. They interview each other. These people, they promote each other. They've got a business model that is antithetical to what you believe and know. They're poisoning the youth, even though they're middle-aged. They think they're edgy. This is a cancer on our public square, a cancer on our political and governing system. They're not influencers. They have no influence on the president. He rejects them. Nothing they demand gets done by him because he doesn't agree with them, and nor should he. This nation does not support suicide, national suicide. You have freedom fighters around the world who are desperately trying to throw off these communist regimes, these Islamist regimes, and they stand with the communist and the Islamist regimes, Maduro, Khamenei, Putin. Many of you are veterans. Maybe you're active duty. Maybe you're National Guard. Many of you are police officers, firefighters. These people are trying to suggest to you that they're what they were 10, 20 years ago. They're not. They've decided in order to make big money, millions of dollars, in ways they couldn't make them before, is to focus on a niche. A niche. They're not America first. They hate America. They hate our values, our system. They rode the president in the last election. Now they're stabbing him in the back. We have to be able to use our own discerning qualities and characteristics in order to help save the country. Whether it's the Islamist, Marxist Islamists, or whether it's the neo-fascists and the woke right and so forth and so on. They have the same thing in common, the destruction of our country. To try and dispirit us. And they do this every day, online and elsewhere, to dispirit us. And they use Saul Alinsky's tactics. We've talked about that before, right? To target, personalize, character assassinate. So they do that with a handful of people, usually Jews, but others too. This is a grotesque, burlesque show, if you will. They lie, they spin, And remember, the reason you love conservative talk radio, the reason you loved Rush Limbaugh, is because we respect you. And we love this country. Tucker Carlson hasn't lifted a finger for this country in any of our movements, whether it's the Tea Party movement, Convention of States movement, even in the MAGA movement. He just shows up. He likes to be at UFC, he likes to be at Mar-a-Lago, but he hasn't done anything. Megyn Kelly tried to sink Trump in that first debate. It was grotesque what she did. Now she's riding the waves. Now she's stabbing him in the back. But even more than that, ladies and gentlemen, these people are stabbing you in the back. They're becoming incredibly rich by preaching anti-Semitism, bigotry, racism, Christian bashing, American bashing. They can say what they want, but they put out their own videos. There's an entire record of who each and every one of them are. If you had people like this on talk radio, they wouldn't survive. They couldn't get ratings. They couldn't get advertisers. They couldn't get program directors and media companies to put up with it. So they create their own platforms. Many of them have have billionaires who fund them. I'm going to start my own podcast, and I'm funding it myself. No foreign government, no billionaires, nobody. Not even a major broadcast company. I'm in negotiations right now. I'm looking at a contract. They're talking about you shall do this, you shall not do that. I ripped it up. I shall do what I choose to do. It's a completely different platform. Do I need to do it? No, I don't need to do anything. I could retire this minute. Am I running for office? No, I'm not running for office. Believe it or not, this is about an altruistic and earnest effort that I've had my whole life to fight for our country. But we have to have the guts, or at least the knowledge, to recognize what's taking place. We cannot have racists and bigots destroy our movement. This is the modern day Klan. That's what it is. It's the modern day Klan. If they put on white sheets, obviously it's, oh, wait a minute, that's the Klan. The fact that they wear expensive dresses and or they dress like hunters, or they wear cowboy hats or whatever, they're still effectively wearing white sheets. There's no difference between the Klan and many of these people. Many of them. No difference at all. Now, some of them talk in a very clever way. I think Tucker Carlson sort of has this effeminate way around him, about him, and the way he talks. Years and years of private education. Grew up extraordinarily wealthy. But he cares about the little man. How so? In what way? In no way. Megyn Kelly has had more positions than the happy hooker. Except there's a big difference, isn't there, Mr. Producer? She's not happy. She's not happy. She's always in the attack mode. She seems to think they always have to attack people and so forth and so. I'm a counterpuncher. That's one of the reasons I like Trump so much. He's a counterpuncher. I'm a counterpuncher. You leave me alone, I leave you alone. That said, if you're going to attack my country, you're going to attack my faith, you're going to attack my brother and sister Christians, you're going to attack our founding, you're going to attack Churchill and try and create some redeeming values around Hitler. You're going to platform Holocaust deniers. You're going to platform individuals who trash our country and then pretend you're only asking questions. I'm sorry. You have to be challenged. 10 months ago, these people weren't challenged, and I decided I'm going to challenge them. And now they're being challenged broadly, and I'm thrilled by it, including by some politicians, although not enough. Not enough. I'm convinced they're not mentally ill. Tucker and Kelly and Bannon, I'm convinced that they're the worst type of grifters. The worst type. That they will prostitute themselves for a buck. They don't care where it comes from. They don't care how they earn it. I'm convinced of it. And that's the best I can say about them. Because if they actually believe it, then they're just pure evil incarnate. These are very, very bad people. They hate you, Mr. and Mrs. America. They're trying to bamboozle you. They're using the same propaganda and tactics as the Marxists and the Islamists. In fact, they agree on many things. They overlap on many things. It's a big problem. All right. More to come. I'm still trying to check out this information that was provided to me, but I'm not going to give it to you unless I can be 100% certain of it. Because one of the things we never want to be here is used for propaganda purposes, but I don't think that's this, so we'll see. More to come. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. We're going to do some circling back, but I want to cover a few points here. And I want to explain to you why the right things don't get done in Washington, D.C. This may offend some people but in the Republican Party, but I can't control that. CBS News. The House approved today a 3-year extension of health care tax credits that expired at the end of last year, with a group of Republicans joining Democrats to propel the measure to passage in the lower chamber. In a 230 to 196 vote, 17 Republicans joined all Democrats in favor of the measure. The legislation is unlikely to pass the Senate in its current form, but some lawmakers are hopeful it will serve as a starting point for a broader compromise. The outcome came after 4 Republicans crossed the aisle last month, revolting against their leadership to join Democrats in forcing a vote on the issue. This is on Obamacare. Obamacare. And so essentially they voted to extend the credits on Obamacare. Now, what's the problem with that? What's the problem with that? It's a massive black hole where you, the American people, are going to have to spend tens of billions of dollars. And if it stands like this, there will be no reforms. No serious or extensive systemic reforms. So for 3 more years, if this passes like this, without any changes in the Senate, you're going to be on the hook for more. This is why I talk about the debt. This is why I say Washington cannot and will not in a significant way, address the debt. And this will be passed on to future generations. And this is due to Republicans who have these very tough districts. Don't get me wrong, and they are tough districts. And they don't want this as a campaign issue. I understand that. And they're also earnest. They want people to have premiums that are affordable. I get that too. But I think it's extremely short-sighted. How are we going to get these things under control? You can't touch Social Security. You can't touch Medicaid. You can barely touch, Medicare. You can barely touch Medicaid. And now we have this Obamacare cancer where people get really insufficient second-class health care at a premium price. And that's what happens when you have government-run health care or government-run anything, which Bernie Sanders wants to impose on all of you. Many of you who have health care plans that you like through contract negotiations or whatever, those would all be eliminated, all wiped out. And, of course, Obamacare was the first step in doing it. So rather than fixing this, getting control over it, demonstrating to the American people that there are other ways, this is being extended for 3 years by the vote in the House. Overwhelming number of Democrats, 4 Republicans moved, which meant that the Republican leadership couldn't block it. And then others joined them, said, what the hell? We don't want to be seen as in favor of high premiums. It's hard to combat that in a campaign with a 30-second or 60-second ad. But you and I, Mr. and Mrs. America, we're stuck with the bill and a lousy product, Obamacare. This is why the president is not thrilled with this sort of thing. The president is elected by all the people, not by marginal districts and this, that, and the other. And he sees this. And this president has spoken out about it, but he may be forced to buy into it. I hope not. But you never know. This is why things don't get done. And yet they're celebrating as, see, we can prove that we can get things done. No, you can prove you can spend money. That's what you proved. The tax credits extension was at the center of the government shutdown, writes CBS, which stretched through October and into November to become the longest in history. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, a New York Democrat, led the effort to force the vote with a discharge petition. And so there you have it. And 4 Republicans signed that discharge petition, got the vote to the floor, had the votes, and now you and I are going to pay more money. We actually aren't. What's going to happen is it's going to be added to the debt, and your children and their children are going to pay more money. It all will come crashing down. Most of you listening will be dead and gone, but your children and your grandchildren are going to have to deal with this. And you know what happens when that happens? The country is destroyed. Because when people are hungry, when people go without the basics, when they can't feed themselves because the value of the dollar is useless. In fact, paper money is absolutely useless. Everything you've saved is useless. You can't pay your mortgages. You can't pay your bills. You can't pay anything because nothing's coming in. Nobody cares about a constitution. The country collapses. We've seen this before. This is just another chink in the armor. There's nothing moderate about, there's nothing compromising about this. This is a sellout. I don't like it. I don't need to hear about the practical politics of the moment. I'm worried about the effects of this, the accumulative effects of all these programs and what's taking place, and the utter lack of responsibility. You could not get away with this if you're running a business. You can't have books like this. You just can't. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Tremendous guests this weekend on Life, Liberty, and Levin. Tremendous guests. We have, for the full hour Saturday, General Jack Keane, but I am going to do a 20-minute monologue. I don't think you should miss it. Set your DVR. I think you're going to love it. And then Sunday, two Democrats, moderate liberals. Actually, I think they're both just moderates. And that would be Mark Penn, who you've heard, and Julian Epstein. These are two great patriots, great guys. And they are very, very troubled by the direction of the Democrat Party. You know, all we do is we listen to AOC and Bernie Sanders and Mondami. You know, there are people there who vote with us in that party. There are people in there who agree with us on 80, 90% of what we believe. And in my view, if the Democrat Party is going to be saved, and I doubt it can be, I really doubt it, but it's going to be people like this. So I felt I should give them a platform to speak. And I think you're going to love it, and my opening statement as well. So you can DVR the show. Those of you who want to watch football, I get it. And you can set your DVRs tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Sunday, Fox. We've had our highest ratings ever last year, 2025, and Fox did too. I thought you should know that. All this talk about, you're washed up. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not going to put down anybody, so I'm just going to make the point. My Fox colleagues and I, hotter than ever. Thanks to you, of course. And this is why I always say, treat your audience with respect. My audience is intelligent. They don't want to hear the crapola, and they don't get it from me. You have to go elsewhere to get it. You know, I'm not trying to play games here. I'm just trying to get confirmation on something that we've heard twice, Mr. Producer and I, and we don't have it yet. So I will wait. If the show ends and I don't have it, then I won't say it. But we shall see. Now, again, I'm going to circle back, but I want to throw another log on the fire here, and that is California. California is destroying itself while its governor wants to be president. And he may well be the Democrat Party nominee, and that's why it's crucial that we Republicans and conservatives, that we make absolutely sure we nominate the right person to run for president of the United States. I don't believe in coronations. I believe they wind up as disasters. We've had many, many good men who were said to be next in line. Many good men. Bob Dole. You don't have to agree with him all the time, obviously, but he's a good man. He's a war hero. And there were others. And they got their shot, and they lost. Romney's another one, I think. But you understand what I'm saying. You want to be my nominee in my party for my movement, you're going to have to earn it. You're going to have to answer a hell of a lot of questions. I'm telling you that right now. There are millions and millions of you. It's way too early in my view to know exactly who you might support. You may have a leaning here and there, but we got to make sure we take the presidency. And even before we think about that, we're going to have to fight for the midterms, and we're going to do everything we can here, because that's what we do. We don't want to chase off people who are part of our coalition. That's why some of these damnable podcasters are so deplorable. It's all about them. It's all about them. Well, here, it's about us and our country. And we need to win those midterm elections, period. Or we're going to be spending the next 2 years on impeachment proceedings and investigations, because they want to use that. They want to use that as the path to the presidency in 2028. That's all they've got. These people are thugs. Absolute thugs. So we're going to spend a lot of time on this before the election. We're also going to spend a lot of time on the 250th anniversary. I want to pick up on something that we've been doing here, which is pointing out some of the the delegates to the Constitutional Convention who are unknown. And all of them should be known. So let's pick up where we left off yesterday. Then we'll move into some other things, but this is your history. This is who you are. This is why we have such a fantastic republic. Not because of all those reprobates and the rest of them who we have to confront and deal with day after day, night after night, but because of these men. At the Constitutional Convention, delegates. A man named Pierce Butler, who I've gotten to know more about. Delegate from South Carolina. A major in the British 29th Regiment before the Revolutionary War. Many of these guys were in the British military, and then they left to join the Revolution. I mean, these were extraordinarily brave men. Butler served in the South Carolina militia when hostilities broke out. Although he was twice a senator, most of his energies went into his career as a planter, as a farmer. What you've already learned, and what you'll learn again on Saturday night during the course of my program on Fox, this is the man who stood up against the idea that Congress should have a role in making war. Others did too. But he said that's a power that belongs to the one man who's elected by all the people, the president. That was Pierce Butler. But there was another South Carolinian, also a great man, Charles Pinckney. You may have heard of him. He was a student at Oxford. He was a veteran of battles including Brandywine, Germantown, and Charleston. He attended every session at the convention. He had a lot of input. He suggested that senators should perform their duties without pay, a recommendation that was not adopted, by the way. These are brilliant men. Let's pick another. Now, that was Charles Cotsworth Pinckney. Then there was Charles Pinckney, both from South Carolina. He was captured during the siege of Charleston, 1780, held prisoner for more than a year, and the Brits treated our men, their prisoners, horrifically. In fact, half of the men that died during the Revolutionary War died on those British prison boats. Having a high opinion of himself, he would claim that he had provided the initial draft of the Constitution. He was certainly involved in it, but that's doubtful. He was an energetic and effective force at the convention. Very young man at the time, too. He was, I'm just adding this up here, let's see. Yeah, he would have been like 34, give or take. Another South Carolinian, John Rutledge. Name ring a bell? He was a rich plantation and slave owner. Several of them were. Rutledge was an active delegate, serving on 5 committees and acting as chairman of the Committee of Detail. That was a crucial committee. He served 1 term as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court before his appointment was officially rejected. Let's do one more. And this will be the last one of the series that I'm doing here. I mean, I'm not going to, you know who George Washington is, and Madison and Franklin and so forth. Well, I'll pick a couple more tomorrow. There's 2 or 3 left. John Blair of Virginia. Obviously, Madison was of Virginia, Washington was of Virginia, Franklin was Pennsylvania, but Blair was a conundrum. He attended most sessions of the convention and did not speak and was not active on any committees. He was a lawyer by profession, which is really amazing if he didn't talk. He was later appointed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court wasn't considered particularly strong at the time. Now I remember the other document that I gave to Hillsdale College, Mr. Producer. This was a very, very important document in private hands, my hands. It was the appointment of the second justice to the Supreme Court, Associate Justice, not the Chief Justice, out of Massachusetts, by George Washington. And I gave that document to Hillsdale College as well. What do you think of that, Mr. Producer? So it'll be there forever. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. I was asked off the air, so I'll share it with you folks in a text I received. I will never surrender my principles. Never. My principles are based on faith, family, and country. I've spent decades talking to you and you to me about these holy principles. Holy. They're the principles on which this nation was founded. They're the principles that the greatest philosophers to ever wrote about. They're the principles that made this country the greatest country that humanity has ever established. I'm not going to allow one politician running under the flag of the party that I support, or the philosophy that I support, to change all of that, to make claims that they have new ideas and new ways. There are no new principles. You understand? There are eternal truths. They're not new. Now, people may have new ideas on how to approach things, but it all centers around the same damn thing. Either you believe in individual liberty or you believe in the collective. And we can go from there. The collective takes many forms. It can take a fascist form. It can take a Marxist form. It can take a feudalism form. It can take a monarchical form. There's lots of forms. Individualism can take many forms, too, like the radical libertarians who are absolutely nuts because they reject the Declaration and the Constitution, the whole idea of a civil society. We can have those discussions. But if it's your view that strong alliances that have kept us safe should be abandoned, then I abandon you. If it's your view that there is no Judeo-Christian value system on which this nation was founded, then I abandon you. If it's your view that socialism, described as populism, is better than capitalism, described as capitalism, then I abandon you. I get a little tired, don't you, ladies and gentlemen, of utterly inexperienced individuals who've done very little for this country. And I don't even mean having to go to war or anything like that. Have done very little up to this point to engage the enemy, foreign and domestic, telling us what to think and believe. And telling us they're right and everything that came before them is wrong. Reagan's wrong, Goldwater's wrong, Bill Buckley's wrong, Milton Friedman's wrong, Scalia's wrong, that's right. But they're right. How? Who says? That's a Marxist manner of thinking. Everything that came before is wrong, but we have great ideas and new ideas, and so we must destroy everything that was to create everything that's new. Sorry, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Mimicking the left and pretending you're not the left doesn't cut it with me. Not viewing America as a superpower doesn't cut it with me. Trying to twist words of people who believe in national security and defense, people who believe in securing our sovereignty, people who believe in the whole idea of constitutional government, of free will and individual liberty. You're going to twist all that into some other slogan or something like that. I'm not for you. We need people who are going to advance the mission, advance the cause, advance liberty and security. There's just too many grifters, too damn many grifters, and know-it-alls. And I'm going to continue to fight them. You know, I have friends, one in particular, not going to mention it because I don't want to humiliate them, who spent a lifetime promoting these values and principles, but has now gotten caught up in this idea that everything and all things revolve around college students, revolve around 18-year-olds. Please don't get me wrong. I'm all for college students and 18-year-olds. That's not my point in the least. But we need to appeal to younger people, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds. You appeal to younger people by being a mature adult. You don't appeal to younger people by saying you're going to appeal to younger people. That's not what you do. And so it's sad when I see these people and the institutions they're involved in basically throw away the decades of work that they've done. It's sad. The Heritage Foundation. I've been involved, or was, with the Heritage Foundation for 45 years. When Ronald Reagan was president, when the president was Ed Fulner, and then later, hold on here, what did I just see here? In any event. And they've destroyed themselves. I haven't spoken about this before. They've destroyed themselves. They hooked their car to the wrong train. And I think we're going to start seeing this in some of the other institutions. And so just like with people, we're going to have to distinguish between those institutions that under very often confusing and daunting circumstances and environments like now take a wrong turn. I'll be right back. If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data, just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company.
You've heard of Lady Liberty? Well, this is Mr. Liberty, the Mark Levin Show. Call him now at 877-381-3811.
In life, ladies and gentlemen, you will feel a lot of betrayal from time to time. Loved ones, friends, people you think you know, even podcasters. In this business, we get it all the time. Don't we, Mr. Producer? All the time. That's why we are so honored to have the kind of loyal sponsors that we have. After we vet them and make sure they're top-notch, and they are. And that's why we do everything we can to present them to you in an honorable and good way. It's very, very important. Loyalty is a very, very important thing. Very loyal to you folks. Very loyal to you folks. Now, before I get to this break, I want to read something to you. Just came from the hot off the presses from the New York Times. Iran is cut off from internet as protests calling for regime change intensifies. So it's getting more intense, and our media is not covering this properly. Here and then we get a good story from the New York Times or on TV, but this should be really a focus, because this is a monumental revolution now that's taking place, and I hope it succeeds in Iran. Monumental, and the effect on the United States and the world is critical. I can assure you they're watching it in China. They're watching it in Russia. They're watching it all throughout the Middle East. They're watching it in our hemisphere. This is a big, big, big deal. As protests swell around the country, Iran's internet was shut down, and the heads of its judiciary and its security forces warned of harsh response amid calls for freedom. Iran plunged into an internet blackout on Thursday. I don't know if Elon Musk can do something about it, but he must. Monitoring groups said as nationwide protests demanding the ouster of the Islamic government spread to multiple cities and grew in size, according to many witnesses. The internet shutdown came a day after the heads of Iran's judiciary and its security services said they would take tough measures against anyone protesting. But the threats did not deter demonstrators. Do you know, last year they murdered almost 2,000 people without trials or anything. They just summary executions, mostly hung or hanged. The internet shutdown came a day after the heads of Iran's judiciary and its security services said they would take these tough measures. In telephone interviews, more than a dozen witnesses said they saw large crowds forming on Thursday night in neighborhoods across Tehran, the capital, and in cities around Iran, including Mashhad, Basra, Shiraz, and Isfahan. They said the crowds were diverse, with men and women, young and old. The people interviewed inside Iran asked that their names not be published out of fear of retribution. So now they know it's either fight or die, protest or die. One resident of Tehran said the crowds were chanting death to Khamenei, referring to Iran's supreme leader, and freedom, freedom. The chants could be heard from several blocks away in the affluent neighborhood of Shirak Arb in Tehran, which had until now sat out of the protest. What you're seeing now is it's not just the poor neighborhoods or the lower middle class areas, middle class, upper middle class, and even wealthy neighborhoods. And it started with the small business owners. That's where it started. And I can assure you that Mondami, that Bernie Sanders, that Raskin, that all these ratfinks are rooting for the wrong side. And if accurate, I've been seeing on the internet, and it's been in enough places that I'll mention it. You can draw your own judgment. It is alleged, and they're sending videos out of it, that the regime there on television is playing excerpts from Tucker Carlson. Did you see that, Mr. Producer? It's all over the place. Maybe it's a big sham, but I doubt it. It's just all over the place. One resident of Tehran said that the crowds were chanting death to Khamenei. Videos filmed on Thursday night, tonight, show government buildings on fire across the country, including in Tehran, as protests grew. While the protests were mostly peaceful early in the evening, violence broke out later in the night in Tehran, with demonstrators setting fire to cars, buildings, and items in the street. A video verified by the New York Times shows fires in the streets of Kaj Square in the capital, with thousands of protesters flooding the area. God bless them. What a courageous people, the Persians. In Karaj, a suburb west of Tehran, a video verified by the Times showed protesters fleeing after gunshots were fired, though it's unclear from the videos whether it was security forces firing. Now, just so you know, folks, the Nazi regime has brought in militia from Iraq who are aligned with them religiously, fundamentalists. So they're bringing in outside forces to try and put down their own people. As the protests grew, internet connectivity data showed an abrupt and near total drop in connection levels in Iran on Thursday afternoon, according to the NetBlocks, an internet monitoring group and the Georgia Institute of Technology's Internet Outage Detection and Analysis database. And the data indicates the country is almost completely offline. Iranian officials did not immediately respond to questions about the cause of the shutdown. We know why, for God's sakes. But the government has previously enforced internet blackouts during moments of crisis. During the government's 12-day war with Israel last June, Iran blocked access to the internet. All right, let me stop there. Netanyahu has been focused on the need to free the people in Iran from his first days. And that 12-day war has lit a match. Because the so-called invulnerability of the Iranian regime made it clear that it wasn't. The Israeli IDF effectively destroyed the Iranian military in 12 days, really less. And they could have gone into the kill if we and other countries allowed it. Of course, our great president took out their nuclear sites. But the fact of the matter is, there are other articles out there which says that Benjamin Netanyahu is a hero in Iran. And the Iranian regime, by some reports, actually many reports, but I can't verify them, are saying that they're playing Tucker Carlson clips. I'm sure that makes Megyn Kelly very jealous. Iranian officials did not immediately respond to questions. During the country's 12-day war with Israel last June, they blocked access to the internet. The Iranian government uses internet shutdowns as a tool of repression, said Omid Memarian, an Iranian human rights expert and senior fellow at Dawn, a Washington-based organization focused on the Middle East. Whenever protests reach a critical point, authorities sever the country's connection to the global internet to isolate protesters and limit their communication with the outside world, and I assume with each other. Iranians have been protesting against authoritarian rule of the Islamic clerics for decades, in wave after wave of protests that have been repeatedly crushed. The latest round of protests began a week ago. Multiple opposition groups, including Kurdish political groups, the Coordination Council of Azerbaijani parties, and Reza Pahlavi, the son of the deposed Shah of Iran, had all called for people inside Iran to take to the streets. Pahlavi had his video put out, his message, and hit the streets this evening. Pro-democracy activists such as Nobel Prize winner Narges Mohammadi, who is currently in detention, said in a statement with 17 prominent dissidents and film directors last week that the demand for democracy could not be quashed. Imagine how brave that man is. He's in a torture chamber. A resident in the southern city of Beshahir, if I mispronounce, I apologize, said the crowd was so large there security forces retreated. A resident of Isfahan said that the crowd of protesters marched, drivers honked and waved, and people in nearby apartment buildings whistled in solidarity. Another resident of another town, a middle-class neighborhood in Tehran, said the crowd was swelling in size by the hour. He said security forces had fired their weapons into the air and fired tear gas canisters, but did not disperse the crowd. He said that some people in the crowd chanted, "Long live the Shah," a reference to the last monarch in Iran who was toppled, and by the way, a tremendous ally of the United States. And he also brought in some Western democratic values into the country that they hadn't experienced for like 1,000 years. Not the Western part, but the more democratic part. Ibrahim Azizi, the head of the Parliament's National Security and Foreign Policy Committee, said in a post on social media that, quote, the Zionist regime, guys, he sounds like Megyn Kelly, sounds like Tucker Carlson. The Zionist regime, referring to Israel, was behind the protests. Yeah, right. The destabilization puzzle has been activated, a puzzle that the Iranian nation will not allow to be completed. With any luck, that guy will be hanging from the end of a telephone pole at some point. A senior government official who did not want to be identified said in an interview that many officials were privately calling and texting one another at a loss of how to contain the avalanche of protests. He said the Revolutionary Guards Corps, typically in charge of securing Iran's borders, not internal security, would likely take over. The slogans chanted by the crowd covered an array of political views, but with one united target, the end of the regime. Omer Ali, a 32-year-old businessman in Tehran, said he and a group of friends had joined the protests and chanted death to the oppressor, be a king or supreme leader. And the street will prevail, and the people will win. Shima, a 52-year-old from Tehran, said she and her husband, her teenage children, and her elderly parents were all on the streets Thursday night, protesting for the first time as a family and chanting, we are together, don't be afraid, and clerics get lost, the Shah is coming back. And as the protest movement has spread to cities across the country, the head of Iran's judiciary told Iranian media the protests were plotted by the country's enemy and the government would show no mercy. Yeah, it's always the Israelis or the United States or whatever. No, it's them. It's them. This time is different. This time there are no excuses left. The enemy has officially announced its support. I tell the people and the families that this time no one will be spared. You know who said that? You know who said that? The head of their judiciary. Amnesty International said in a statement that it has documented at least 28 protesters killed in the recent days of protest, including children. Here are the groups that document and track human rights. Put the toll higher at more than 40. Emma Spara Nashat, a podcaster who supports the protest, was arrested when security forces raided his home in the middle of the night. Kevin Rod, a lawyer, and one of his relatives announced on his Instagram on Thursday morning. By the way, have you noticed, Mr. Producer, has Joe Rogan talked about this? No. Carlson? No. Kelly? Who knows? Talks about everything and nothing. But you'll notice, the woke Reich doesn't really talk about this. And when they talk about Venezuela, they're talking about Trump should not have gone to Venezuela. They used to talk up Maduro as a good Christian man against gay people. Like that's where the American people stand. Unbelievable. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. Man, oh man, we're keeping an eye on the news. Things are breaking. I want to read this to you before the hour is up. Fox News, 5 Republican senators joined Democrats to stop Trump from policing Venezuela. That's how the title is written. President Trump suffered a rare defeat from his own party when a handful of Senate Republicans rebelled to curb his use of military force in Venezuela. The attempt to reassert Congress's war powers authority, led by Senator Tim Kaine, survived despite broad support among most Republicans in the Senate, who argue that Trump's use of the military in Venezuela was justified. Okay, this is not written properly, with all due respect. Congress is trying to reassert its authority. I've dealt with it here. I'm going to deal with it Saturday night. Please don't miss it. DVR the show on Fox if you're not going to be watching at that time. Among the defectors, Rand Paul. Rand Paul has been the sort of the Tom Massey of the Senate against Trump. He co-sponsored the resolution. Lisa Murkowski, another one. Susan Collins. Guy Todd Young from Indiana. This guy's a complete moron. Awful. A disaster. And Josh Hawley of Missouri. And Josh Hawley later said, you know, I used to teach the Constitution. Hi, honey.
Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Just loving life.
All right. Said, I used to teach the Constitution. I read Article 1, and I don't know really how else to read it. Well, I'm going to help Josh and everybody else again Saturday night because they misinterpret declare war. And the founders, I should say the framers of the Constitution, make that abundantly clear, and I will make that clear again. You folks already know. But we will deal with it, because Hawley may have been acting out of earnestness, but the others are kind of saboteurs. This guy Young from Indiana is an IQ of a cucumber, in my humble opinion. Murkowski is really a radical Democrat dressed up as a Republican. And so all that sort of stuff's going on. Thursday's successful vote, which also handed Senate Minority Leader Thune a rare defeat, is just the first step before the resolution officially passes. They'll have to take another vote. This time they have the 60-vote filibuster threshold. That is one of the reasons, ladies and gentlemen, we don't get rid of the filibuster. It can be a major pain in the tuchus, but on the other hand, it can stop a major pain in the tuchus too. That's just one man's opinion. If the Democrats get rid of it, which the president is fearful of if they take over, he's right. They'll change the whole world. And so he's saying, in defense of that, maybe we should get rid of it and do what we need to do. He's not necessarily wrong about that. I mean, to me, it's a close call. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America, the Power Hour, Hour 3. How are you out there? Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. We will be taking calls at the bottom of the hour. Let me show you how bad this is with these 5 Republicans and the Democrats on what they've tried to do to the President of the United States. And there's no president that would support this, Democrat or Republican. What they would compel, what Rand Paul and Tim Kaine, almost all the Democrats, maybe all of them, but these 5 Republicans would require, is that if the president wanted to take further military action in Venezuela, he'd have to get the approval of Congress. The approval of Congress. Where is that in the Constitution? Congress doesn't have the power to make war. That was specifically removed from the draft language of the Constitution. Congress has the power of the purse. But can you imagine what the framers of the Constitution would think if a president is in a war, and he's not right now, we're not right now, but if we were in a war, that he has to get Congress's approval? Now, Congress can either fund it or not. But to approve whether this is done or that is done, no. That cuts 100% against what the framers intended. Rand Paul is not a constitutionalist. He's a fraud and a fake. He's a radical libertarian. I'm sorry. I don't mind libertarians. When it comes to economics, I'm very libertarian. But when it comes to interpreting the Constitution, it comes to interpreting the Constitution, not with an ideology. I dare any libertarian who's a professor, who's a member of Congress, to show me exactly where the framers said that Congress should have the power to make war. Show me. Because I'll show you where they specifically said no and took it out of the draft. Let alone conduct war, never would happen. Now, let's think about this as a practical matter. In the first Congress, there were 65 members of the House and 23 members of the Senate. Why not an equal number? Who knows? One wasn't appointed, one died. I don't know. But that's what there was. 100 of them. Let's round it up. There are 535 members now. At the Constitutional Convention, there were 55 delegates, 39 of whom voted for the Constitution. Even in that relatively small group in Philadelphia at Independence Hall, which was Pennsylvania Assembly Building, even there, they realized that a committee can't be responsible for running a war. What do you think they'd say about 535 members? Or the current Congress that can't even pass a damn budget? And what information does Congress have to be running wars? Who does the CIA report to? Who's the DNI report to? State Department, Defense Department. I could go on and on. They don't have the information, even if you quote-unquote brief them in. You're talking about days and hours and months of going over information and sharing it with the President of the United States and his cabinet. They're the legislative branch, not the executive branch. But Mark, don't they have any role? I've already said the most powerful role of all, the budget, spending, borrowing. But they don't have the votes. Well, too bad. If they don't have the votes, then they don't get it. That's what we have elections for. Congress did cut off funding for the Vietnam War. That's how it ended. Republicans and Democrats alike. But Donald Trump has done very little in that regard. We had at one time almost 500,000 and maybe it was 550,000 troops in Vietnam without a declaration. Because the declaration of war isn't what matters. And they cut it off. We lost approximately 60,000 men in that war that wasn't a declared war. Korea, same thing. We've had 11 declarations of war, 6 of them related to World War II, 2 of them related to the First World War, and hundreds of military involvements, including quote-unquote wars. Were all the presidents violating the Constitution? Should all of them have been impeached? Were they all dictators? No! Can you imagine? These 5 Republicans and these Democrats? You got to get authorization from them? Where is that written? Nowhere. Where was that argued during the constitutional debate? Nowhere. Well, I was a law professor, and I look at Article 1. I don't know what else to do. What else am I supposed to do? The Constitution is an ideological plaything by the left or the right or the in-between. It is what it is. And you're trying to discern what it is. You look at the text. If it's not clear, look at the context. If that's not clear, you always go back to the founding of the framers. Try and find the context for it. That's what I did. They can do the same thing, but they don't. They go on TV and they Bunch of marble mouths go on there. And it's like birthright citizenship, like I discussed the other day. Exists nowhere. Birthright citizenship. Birthright. Those words were never, ever said. In writing, orally, nothing. And yet today, it's a right, it's right in the Constitution. Declaration of war. We have the right to determine if we go to war. No, you don't. You don't at all. As a matter of fact. You either fund the military or you don't. That's what the Constitution says. You either fund certain events or you don't. And as I said, I'd be the first to argue, and I have. They have the power of the purse. If they would say to Donald Trump, look, we have the votes, we're cutting off any and all military action now or in the future for Venezuela. They can do that. They pass the legislation. It goes to the president. He vetoes it. They have to overcome the veto. If they do all those things, they win. He loses. But they don't do it because they don't have the votes, and it's not going to happen. So to hear these prima donnas, these phony pseudo-constitutionalists get up and say it's right there in the Constitution is a bald-faced lie or the spewings of an ignoramus. Sorry. Comes to the Constitution, baby. I do what I do. I do what I do. I defend it from those who pretend to defend it. Oh, boy, every time this happens, I got to keep making these points. Sometimes I wonder. By the way, the mayor of Minneapolis, who's a complete moron, he likes to curse. He seems to think that's what's in, like Megyn Kelly. He's sort of a Megyn Kelly in drag, or Megyn Kelly is the mayor of Minneapolis in drag. One of them's in drag, but nonetheless. Maybe one of them's transitioning. I don't know. Who knows? Would that be wrong? Well, the first Megyn thought it was okay. The second Megyn thinks that would be wrong. But he keeps cursing like that means something. Like that means something. Elizabeth Warren, we always turn to her when we want common sense, don't we? Apparently she knew this woman. Knew all about her. Because here's what she said yesterday on MS Now. MS Now. They have no ratings. MS Never, it ought to be called. Cut 12, go.
No one is safer in Minneapolis because of this kind of invasion. People are put at risk, and we don't know the details.
All right, hold on. What invasion? That ICE is throwing there enforcing the law? The Democrats are desperate for the illegal aliens to say, whether they're mass murderers or rapists, whatever it is, their judges are the same. We got this guy Garcia, who's a wife beater, who's a gang member, who's a sex trafficker, and you got a left-wing kook Democrat lawyer who became a judge who defends him. And you got the guy who defended him. He's now the chief lawyer in New York City. Go ahead.
Quite sensible to say everybody wants to wait and get a full investigation here. But there is nobody who thinks we are safer to say the way to respond.
I think we're safer, thank God. Before I let her drone on, let me ask you a question, America. Have you ever heard her speak this way about an innocent American citizen who's been murdered by an illegal alien? Have you? Have you ever heard them? No. No. It's sick. Go ahead.
On immigration issues, or the way to respond if you think there's a fraud problem, is to have this kind of massive show of force and this aggression.
It's not a massive show of force. They have to send ICE in there because you people have militarized populations, and they go in there to get people, and they should not be obstructed, and Democrat political hack demagogues should be droning on at the highest pitch possible about how they're Gestapo, how they're going to disappear people, and all the rest of it. You, Elizabeth Warren, and your ilk create this environment. Go ahead.
Which might appear that here's a woman, there's no indication she's a protester, there's nothing.
Really? Well, the New York Post just said she's not only a protester, she leads this movement in that community. Will anybody go back to Elizabeth Warren to have her correct herself? No, of course not. She doesn't let the facts come out. I'm the one who's been letting the facts come out, not her. We don't know all the facts, but is there any evidence she's So all day today, that was the storyline, that she was not an activist. Turns out she was the leading activist. Now, that's no reason to get shot. But if you use your car in a way that is more than provocative, is threatening to law enforcement, you may well get shot. And that should be the lesson to everybody. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
All right, more breaking. Was just put out by the Department of Homeland Security, Chrissy Noem, at 2:19 Pacific Standard Time, which would be 5:19 Eastern Time. U.S. Border Patrol agents were conducting a targeted vehicle stop in Portland, Oregon. The passenger of the vehicle and target is a Venezuelan illegal alien affiliated with the transnational Tren de Aragua prostitution ring and involved in a recent shooting in Portland. The vehicle driver is believed to be a member of the vicious Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua as well. When agents identified themselves to the vehicle occupants, the driver weaponized his vehicle and attempted to run over the law enforcement agents. See what's happening now, ladies and gentlemen? You Democrats have done a hell of a job here. Fearing for his life and safety, an agent fired a defensive shot. The driver drove off with the passenger, fleeing the scene. The situation is evolving. More information is forthcoming. Well, let's take some calls here. Go to Jim, York, Pennsylvania. The great WSBA, one of our great affiliates. Go right ahead, please.
Two things, Mark. First of all, the late Paul Harvey would have called these rioters rent-a-mob.
Very true.
Rent-a-mob. That's what the late Paul Harvey would have called them. The second thing, from a programming standpoint, from a programming content standpoint, you are a direct descendant of Rush Limbaugh.
Wow, you're very kind.
I listened to Paul and Rush in the 90s. I love
Rush
your show.
was like a brother. We're very, very close. And what did he say? Never mind. He was hilarious, and he was just fantastic. And it's too bad he's not around to help us today. Same with Paul Harvey. But here I am. Here we are, and we're going to continue to pound away. Jim, thank you. God bless you, my friend. Let's go to Ravi, San Diego, California, on the Mark Levin app. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you, Mark?
Very well, thank you.
How are you?
Good.
So,
thanks.
As you are, I've been following the revolution in Iran, the protests, and you were mentioning about one of the things was the internet blackout. And if you look back, I think in December or November 2019, there was the Iranian regime murdered about 1,500 people in Iran when they had an internet blackout. And it's a very high chance that what they're trying to do now is they're trying to do the same thing, but maybe on a higher level, because the revolution is on a higher level. And I read about the importance in American Thinker about taking down the regime now. President Trump has to follow through on his threat to take out the regime now. That they've already been killing peaceful protesters, about at least 40 so far, potentially a lot higher.
And what is your name if you write on the American Thinker?
Ravi, R-O-V-V-Y.
That you say you read it or wrote it on the American Thinker?
Oh, I wrote it. It's the top article in the American Thinker. The Iranian regime must fall.
I'm with you 100%, brother.
But it's important that America follows through with military action. And
it's very important that we do something that's going to help, and it's very important, quite frankly, that the Israelis try to figure out to do something too. I don't know what that is, to be perfectly honest with you. But I don't think we should just be standing by. You know, Ravi, back in May and June, but June especially, if the Israelis were done with that regime and we bombed their nuclear sites, I called for regime change. You would have thought that I was some kind of domestic bomber or something. The way that the cockroaches came out of the woodwork. That phrase, regime change. That's an important phrase, a meaningful phrase. I didn't say build this or build that. I said take that regime out. When you have a regime that's on its back that threatens the United States of America with nuclear weapons, and will do it again, why wouldn't you stop them? That I don't get. Ravi, good call. Keep writing. We're going to have to take a break very, very soon. I apologize to you. Sometimes there needs to be regime change, America, like in the Third Reich, like in fascist Italy, like Imperial Japan. Doesn't mean we're responsible for doing it each and every time. But the Israelis put the Iranian regime on its back. Just my view. I'll be right back.
This is the home of America's founding. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
All right, let's see where we are here. Let's take some callers. Let's jump into the gene pool, shall we? Joel, Naples, Florida, the great WFSX. Go.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for what you do. You're an American hero.
Thank you.
I wanted to say we're fighting we're fighting our own internal Democrats. We're fighting people on the street that are protesters, and they're backed by George Soros. Mm-hmm. How do we take him down? I mean, nobody is getting arrested.
I thought I read that he was under investigation a couple of weeks ago. You might want to Google that, or duck that, or Bing that, or whatever you use. And I think he should be. I think his entire enterprise should be. Because he's obviously, he and his son Alex worked very hard to inherit billions. I believe that they are involved in and funding some of the most nefarious operations in our country to overthrow this country. I don't believe that should go without notice.
And I think the other thing we're fighting, too, is Islamification of America. I mean, we have communism and Islamification, and not only fighting external terrorists, but we have our own internal. And
well, of course. And as I say, I've written about this, for now? I don't know, 20 years? But look, I'm going to be honest with you folks. You don't have to. But if you read my book on power, there's a particular chapter on this, and you're going to say, wow, how did he know? But take a look at that book. I don't know if it's at libraries anymore. I really lay it all out there. And you're exactly right, of course. Thank you for your call, Joel. Greg, San Antonio, Texas, on the Mark Levin app. How are you?
Good, Mark. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Wanted to hurry up and get through this. In Minnesota, the issue with all the fraud and all, Waltz and Frey, I mean, they should have been thrown out of office for misfeasance, malfeasance a long time ago, sent out of office on a rail, as far as I'm concerned.
Me too.
But it is so hard. It is so hard that they're the blue cities and states, and also being sanctuary city and state. I wanted to ask you this. Should Trump rally like you, Jonathan Turley, Jim Trusty, Brett Tolman, Newt Gingrich, the majority leader of the Senate and the House, Governors Abbott, DeSantis, all of them? Get them all together, and let's start talking about a convention of states. I mean, wouldn't that be great? In the 250
Well, the problem is I've never stopped talking about a convention of states, and you're right. This should be a big push. Even though they can push it hard, the president can. He has no role, but you're exactly right. You're talking about promoting it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Questions about that. So, yeah, he's so popular. Hopefully he can get it done. But codifying the executive orders for defunding the sanctuary cities and states, I mean, does that need to be done?
Codifying means it has to be passed by Congress. You think that'll get done?
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, let's go back to the Convention of States. So what can be done, right? So adding to the Supremacy Clause, I don't know, amendments to ban sanctuary city states
So
you know what? I'm going to bring Meckler back on, my buddy. Really dear friend Mark Meckler, who runs Convention of States. Let's get an update on what's going on. Mr. Producer, let's see if we can do that tomorrow even, or Monday. And I will let you know. That's an excellent point. Let's see what's going on and what else we can do, Greg. Make sense?
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We always get a lot of good callers, I think. At least of late, I think. Let's see here. Let's hear Chuck Schumer. It's about right, Chuck Schumer. On Capitol Hill reporters. Listen carefully to what he gets asked, okay? Hat tip Nicholas Balassi. Cut 18, go.
You wanted Maduro out of power in 2020. You said Trump should have taken him out.
The bottom line is that Trump you don't do things illegally, which is what Trump did. It's going to encourage dictators across the world.
Stop. He didn't do anything illegally. Zero. You lying sack of crap. Go ahead.
Maduro was an illegitimate leader, though, not elected legitimately. Isn't this not a war and not illegal? Isn't it?
It is illegal.
Based on what, though? Why do you think?
He's violated the War Powers Act.
He violated the War Powers Act, which is unconstitutional. But he didn't even do that. So this is what they do. They just lie and lie and lie. And that's why I'm going to unravel it for you Saturday on Life, Liberty, and Levin in more detail. Go ahead.
How do you respond to Republicans who say that you're flip-flopping because you wanted him out in 2020?
Let them get on the right side here and let him do the right thing for the country.
What do you think is the next step, you personally think?
The next step? We got to be on them. They have no plan. They don't know who's going to succeed Maduro.
Shut up, moron. You don't even know what the hell you're talking about. I like this guy. Who is this guy? Nicholas Balassi? If I'm mispronouncing. Balassi? Good. I won't forget. Nicholas Balassi. Very good there, bro. Now that's a real reporter. You know, not these Carlsons. Yes. Now we have Bernie Sanders. Very, very important. We always hear from Bernie Sanders, so the media are always getting him, quotes from him. Of course, I'm being sarcastic, but here we are. Cut 19, go.
Trump's attack on Venezuela will not make the United States and the world safer. Quite the contrary. This brazen violation of international law gives a
Of course, there is no violation of international law of any kind. And we've looked at some of the great experts who've talked about this, but it doesn't matter to Bernie Sanders. He's a Stalinist. Bernie Sanders liked Maduro. I'm telling you the truth. He liked Castro, Noriega. These are his people. He likes Mandami, and AOC, Talib, Omar. He's the Marxist. They're the Islamists. And for now, they're one and the same. And so why don't the media at least tell us when he's spewing his stupidity and burping it up? Why don't they at least tell us that? And here we have AOC, who, of course, has a great deal of experience mixing drinks. Sandy, she used to call herself, but now she's very ethnic, Cut 20, go.
But when we dig into the details...
You can shut up. We're not interested in you getting into details or anything else, because you're a moron. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Let us go to Kevin, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. How are you, my friend?
Great. Hey, I have one statement and I have a legal question for you. The first is I called your show. Okay. All right. I called your show eight months ago as a retired ICE officer, and I made the suggestion that ICE should rehire retired ICE agents back, which is what they did. I actually did get an email, and they put out one job announcement with USA Jobs, but it was my understanding that they mostly hired back like managers or people that certain managers were. All
right, get to your point before we lose our airtime.
Right, so So they put out another announcement, and hopefully I can get hired through the second announcement.
All right. Thank you for your call. I'm not in the hiring business, but they've been hiring a ton of people, not just managers. Let me just put it to you that way. I hope you get back in. Tony, Montreal, Canada, XM Satellite. How are you? Tony! Did we lose Tony? Let's go to Ray. Grand Prairie, Texas, the great WBAP. Ray, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
I'm
concerned that all these congressmen who say Trump is acting beyond his authority, they're really getting under my skin.
Mm-hmm.
The history of the United States, they formally declared war 11 times, but it was in the course of 5 separate wars. The most recent one was near the tail end of World War II against Bulgaria, Hungary, and Romania in 1942. And most recently, we've been involved in a lot of extended military engagements that might be considered undeclared war, but they did nothing for Korea War, which is in the early 50s, Vietnam.
You know, we already covered all this, and you're exactly correct. And they did nothing to stop Venezuela from sending drugs into this country. They did nothing to stop China and Russia from building intelligence entities within Venezuela. You've got members of the Senate, Congress, who've been there 20, 30 years, who don't get off their fat butts and do a damn thing. And here you have a president who's trying to put an end to this stuff. And now they get up and look at this. The president's acting. He's not allowed to act without our authority. He sure as hell is. Absolutely is. And it's not even a matter of interpreting the Constitution. They specifically rejected the power of a Congress making war, specifically debated it at the Constitutional Convention. And they voted 8-1, 8 states to 1, to change it from make war to declare war. And I want to know how these Republicans, these 5, let alone the Democrats, have the gall to say that unless they authorize something, the president can't do it. Like I said, they have the power of the purse, that's obvious. They can cut off funding, but he does not need their authorization. Period.
You say that so eloquently.
Thank you.
Yes, you say it very eloquently.
Now, Grand Prairie, Texas is kind of close to Dallas, no? Not too far. Am I wrong?
Yes, halfway between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Yeah. It's a nice area there. Do you have any now Islamist centers there? Because they're starting to pop up because the Islamists have decided to flip Texas and Florida. Do you have any near you?
In Plano. That's
Plano.
If you go halfway between Dallas and Fort Worth, it's the north. I'm a little bit south. But yeah.
And Plano, when I was working at Texas Instruments when I was 23 years old or so, was barely a town. Now it's a bustling suburb. And so they're creating an Islamic community there with Sharia law and their own law enforcement and all the rest. They want to turn this into Paris. And they want to turn New York into London. And they want to turn Dearborniston, Michigan into what is now Dearbornistan, Michigan. In other words, it's gone. And we better wake the hell up to this, because these entities are not interested in assimilation, living and let living. No. We see it in our streets right now. We see it all throughout Europe. This is an Islamic crusade. Hello, I said it. Hello. It's an Islamic crusade. And they planned it. They wrote about it. They talked about it. They still talk about it. And I'm not going to sit here and play Helen Keller and pretend I don't see it and hear it. All right. Thank you. You take care of yourself, my friend. Tony, are you back in Canada, Montreal, Canada, XM Satellite? How are you, Tony?
Yeah, good. I'm good. The only Republican in the Great White North. I'm the only one taking the slings and the arrows up here.
Well, I understand anti-Semitism is thriving up there. You had that left-wing kook who was your prime minister. The borders were wide open. And so you're having a hell of a time up there.
Listen, the Islamofascist movement that you're talking about, I call it Islamofascism. You know, they call us Islamophobes. We are not. We are traditionalists. We want our Christian, Judeo-Christian society to maintain itself. But here in Canada and in the United States, we have the same type of enclave north of Edmonton, Alberta, where there's like a 200-acre enclave of promoting Sharia law. Let me just say one thing. Sharia law, the imposition of Sharia law to me is treason. It means an overthrow of government. If you want to overthrow the common law system of the United States or Canada and replace it with Sharia law.
Call back, Tony. Call back. That music means I got to dance out of here. You're a great caller. Call again. And he's in a tough neighborhood. Canada's going nuts. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, the men and women in Iran. God bless you, the American people. Thank God for you. See you tomorrow.